black man in a tailored suit boards first class. Minutes later, he's humiliated and kicked out in front of everyone. What the airline didn't know? He controls a $120 million contract, and they just messed with the wrong CEO. This is Real Talk Stories, where real people face real injustice and the consequences are unforgettable. Today's story, a flight attendant targets the wrong passenger and learns way too late who he really is. Marcus Boyd didn't grow up around jets or boardrooms. He was raised by a single mother in Birmingham, Alabama. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep the lights on. And from a young age, Marcus learned that the world didn't hand respect to people who looked like him. You had to earn it. He never forgot the humiliation of being told to leave a store as a teenager because they didn't have what he could afford. He promised himself that one day they'd know who he was before they tried to push him out. Decades later, Marcus was the CEO of Boyd Tech Logistics, a multinational supply chain company that handled freight for some of the world's biggest airlines, including the one whose logo was printed on the boarding pass he clutched in his hand. That morning, Marcus was en route to New York for a high-stakes summit, one that could double his company's valuation overnight. He'd booked a quiet first-class seat for the early flight, not to relax, but to work. A laptop full of contracts, a mind wired for numbers, and a calendar with no space to waste. But the flight was already late when he arrived at the gate. As he walked through the jet bridge, a few passengers turned to glance, the way they often do. A black man in a sharp suit, traveling alone, no assistant in sight. He was used to the stares. When Marcus entered the cabin, he moved naturally to 2A, a window seat he'd selected specifically for its quiet. He nodded politely to the man in 2B, set his briefcase down, and began reviewing his schedule. But just before takeoff, a voice cut through his focus. "Sir," the flight attendant said, tapping his seat, "I need to see your boarding pass." Marcus glanced up. Her expression wasn't kind. It was suspicious, like he didn't belong, but he handed it over anyway. She barely glanced at it before her lips pressed into a tight line. "There must be some mistake," she said. "This seat's been reassigned. I'll need you to move to economy." Marcus blinked. "Reassigned?" She nodded. "Yes, sir. There was an issue. We had to upgrade another passenger." Marcus looked confused. "You mean you downgraded me? Without notice?" The flight attendant didn't respond. Instead, she motioned behind her. That's when Marcus saw him. A white man in... The man gave Marcus a quick shrug. "Sorry, buddy," he muttered. Marcus stood slowly. "Let me get this straight. You removed me from my seat to upgrade someone else, because he's a loyalty member?" The attendant's tone sharpened. "Sir, please don't make a scene. I'm asking you to comply or we'll be forced to delay the flight." Marcus stared at her, then at the silent passengers watching around them. Most looked away, but one woman, seated across the aisle, pulled out her phone and quietly began recording. He took a breath and walked down the aisle, past rows of staring eyes, back to seat 23C. He didn't speak another word. Instead, he opened his phone and made a call. "Derek," he said, "put a hold on the $120 million contract with Airline. I'll explain when I land, and get the legal team ready." The woman recording widened her eyes. She hadn't expected that. She turned to her seatmate. "Did he say 120 million? By the time the flight landed, the video had already been uploaded, and it was spreading. The headline hit within hours: CEO removed from first class for white passenger, freezes 120 million airline contract. Marcus didn't post about it. He didn't rant online, but he didn't have to. The story spoke for itself. What no one saw coming was the backlash. Not against Marcus, but against the airline. Their PR team scrambled. The CEO issued a formal apology. Unacceptable behavior, they called it. We are launching a full investigation. But Marcus wasn't done. He released a statement through his company's official page. I was removed from a seat I paid for, not because of policy, but because of perception. This wasn't an error. It was a decision. And decisions have consequences. Over the next 48 hours, the airline stock dropped 6.3%. Shareholders demanded answers. Board members were furious. And Marcus? He met with their competitors. Within a week, Boyd Tech signed a new 5-year logistics contract with another airline. And the flight attendant? She was placed on indefinite leave. But the story wasn't just about her. It was about the system that allowed it. Marcus took the spotlight and turned it into impact. He funded a new program, the Ascend Initiative, a mentorship and scholarship network for underrepresented students pursuing careers in aviation and logistics. He donated $2 million to launch it. He didn't want revenge. He wanted change. And he made sure the world saw the difference between the two. News outlets picked it up. Talk shows debated it. Industry leaders weighed in. But Marcus stayed quiet. He had work to do. Because the world doesn't change from one viral video. It changes when power meets purpose. And Marcus Boyd was just getting started. One flight, one act of arrogance, and $120 million gone in minutes. Marcus Boyd didn't fight back with anger. He used power, purpose, and proof. If you believe respect isn't optional, and silence doesn't mean weakness, then hit that subscribe button. Because on Real Talk Stories, the truth always lands.